What would you do if you met someone younger than you, someone with nothing but dreams, and you began to feel love growing inside you? Would you follow your heart or listen to the people around you? This is the story of how I faced that choice. My name is Sophia. I am 47 years old. I live in Madrid, Spain. I am divorced. I do not have a husband or a partner. I live alone in a quiet apartment. My work is my life. I am a fashion designer. I worked for many years and built my career step by step. Now I design clothes for famous people. I earn good money. I travel for shows. Many people know my name from outside. It looks like I have everything, but inside, I often feel alone. I come home to silence. I make dinner. For one, I sleep in a large bed by myself. People see me with perfect hair, new dresses and a strong walk, but they do not see my empty evenings. They do not see how I sometimes wish for one simple thing. Someone who cares for me, not my money or my designs. One Saturday afternoon, I went to a small art gallery in the city. I like to look at paintings when I wanted peace. The gallery was quiet, soft music played in the background. I walked slowly past the paintings. Some showed the sea, some showed mountains, some showed faces full of feelings. Then I saw a man standing in one corner. He was tall with brown hair and maybe 29 years old. His clothes were simple, his shoes were old, his hands had paint marks like he had just finished work. He stood near a small table where his paintings were displayed. I stopped to look at them. His name was written on a card mark. His paintings were full of color. One showed a woman sitting alone near a window, another showed a child running in the rain. I felt something in his art. It was real, it was honest. Mark looked at me. His eyes were gentle, but also shy. "Do you like them?" he asked softly. His Spanish accent was clear, but his voice was quiet. "Yes," I said, "they feel alive." He smiled a little. "Thank you." Not many people stopped to look, most just walk past. I looked at his clothes, his shoes, and his tired hands. I understood he was not rich, but there was light in his eyes. There was hope. He told me he worked as a painter and also as a waiter at night to pay rent. He shared that he dreamed of having a big studio one day. He wanted to paint full-time, but it was hard. I bought one of his small paintings that day. It was a picture of a street with yellow light and shadows. He wrapped it carefully in paper and gave it to me. "I hope you enjoy it," he said. I went home with the painting, but also with a new thought. I kept seeing his eyes full of hope. The next week I returned to the gallery. He was there again. We talked more. We shared coffee at a small cafe nearby. His stories were simple but full of life. He laughed when he spoke about his childhood in a small town. He told me about painting in the streets, selling pictures for a few coins. I told him about my fashion shows, about Paris, Milan and New York. Our lives were different, but we listened to each other with care. Soon we began to meet more often. Sometimes I invited him to a cafe. Sometimes we walked in the park. One evening he showed me his tiny room. It was small and old. The walls had cracks, but his room was full of paintings. There were colors everywhere. He showed me one picture he was working on, a woman wearing a red dress looking at the sky. He said, "I paint people who dream." Before I go further, let me remind you, if you like stories like this, please subscribe, share this video with friends, and comment below. Your support helps me bring more simple English stories for you. Thank you. The more I met Mark, the more I felt different. He was younger than me. He did not have money or a big car, but when I sat with him, I felt light. He made me smile in a way I had not smiled in years. He asked about me, not about my work or my business. When I was with him, I was not Sophia the designer. I was just a woman listening, laughing, and walking beside a man who cared, but not everyone understood. People around me began to whisper. Some said, "Why is she with such a young man?" Others said, "He only wants her money." At first I tried to ignore them, but words can cut deep. At parties I saw people look at us with strange eyes. They whispered when we walked away. I pretended not to care, but in truth I felt pain. One night I asked him, "Do you hear what people say about us?" Mark looked at me and said, "Yes, I hear, but do you believe them?" His question surprised me. I stayed quiet. Then he took my hand and said, "I do not care about your money, Sophia. I care about you. You believe me, don't you?" I saw his eyes and I knew the truth. Still, I was afraid. I had been hurt before. My ex-husband left me for another woman many years ago. Since then, I had promised myself not to open my heart again. But with Mark, that promise began to break. He was not like the men I knew. He did not ask for gifts. He only wanted time with me, walks in the park and coffee in small cups. One evening as we sat near the river, he looked at me and said, "Sophia, when I paint now, I paint you. You bring me light." His words touched me. For years I had been called strong, successful, famous, but never light. I turned my head away because tears filled my eyes. He saw them and smiled gently. Our story had only begun, but already I knew something. Mark was not just another person in my life. He was someone who could change it, someone who made me feel alive again. When Mark told me I brought light into his life, I could not stop thinking about his words. For years I was strong in my work, strong in front of people, but inside I felt empty. His words stayed with me. They touched a part of me that was quiet for too long. Our days together became longer. We met in cafes, we walked through the park, and sometimes I went with him to small art markets. He stood with his paintings on the street. People passed by. Some looked, some did not. A few bought a painting. I stood near him watching, feeling proud of him. He never asked for help, never asked for money. He only wanted me to be there. But soon the whispers around me grew louder. At my work, some people spoke behind my back. They said, "Sophia has lost her mind. She is dating a young man who wants her money." Others laughed and said, "Maybe he is her son's age." I felt hurt. I had no son, but the words still cut deep. When I came home at night, I sometimes sat alone and asked myself, am I foolish? Am I blind? One evening I asked Mark again, "Do you care about what people say?" He looked at me with calm eyes. "No, they do not live our life. They do not feel what we feel. Let them talk. We know the truth." His answer gave me peace for a moment. But the fear inside me was not gone. One night we went to a small restaurant. The light was soft, music was quiet, and the food smelled warm. Mark looked happy. He told me he sold 2 paintings that week. He wanted to save money for better paint and canvas. As he spoke, I looked at his hands. They were strong, but the skin was dry and marked with color. I reached out and touched them. He looked at me and smiled. After dinner, as we walked outside, he stopped under a street light. He held my face in his hands. His eyes were full of feeling. Then he kissed me. It was not a quick kiss, it was deep and full of truth. My heart beat fast, but not with fear. For the first time in many years I felt love again. After that night our bond grew stronger. We spent more time together. I invited him to my apartment. He looked at the wide windows, the clean white walls and the quiet space. "It is beautiful," he said, "but it feels empty." His words were true. My home had been empty for years. When he was there, it felt alive. Sometimes I worried about money. I was rich compared to him. I had a good job, a car and savings. He lived in a small room and ate cheap meals. I wanted to help him, but I feared he would feel weak if I offered. One evening I said gently, "Mark, let me give you some money for paint." He shook his head fast. "No, Sophia. Please, I do not want your money. I want your time." I felt ashamed. I thought he might be angry. But then he took my hand and said softly, "If one day I need help, I will ask, but right now I need to stand on my own." His pride made me respect him even more. Weeks turned into months. We grew close. We laughed more, shared small secrets, and made plans to visit the sea. But life was not easy. People kept talking. One afternoon, I met an old friend at a cafe. She looked at me and said, "Sophia, why do you waste your time on this young man? He will leave you one day. He wants your money, not your love." Her words hurt me. I went home with a heavy heart. That evening Mark came to see me. He noticed my face. "What is wrong?" he asked. I told him what my friend said. He stayed quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Sophia, if you believe her, I will walk away. But if you believe me, stay by my side. Do not stand in the middle." I felt tears in my eyes. I knew he was right. I had to choose. I whispered, "I believe you, Mark." He hugged me tightly and I felt safe again. One winter night, as the city lights shone outside, he surprised me. He pulled something from his pocket. It was not a diamond. It was not gold. It was a small silver ring, simple and plain. He looked at me and said, "Sophia, I love you. Would you marry me?" I was silent. My heart raced. He was young, poor, and people already judged us. But his eyes were true. He wanted me, not my money. Slowly I said yes. His face filled with joy. He kissed me again and I felt tears fall. We married in a small church outside the city. There were no big parties, no rich guests, only a few close friends came. I wore a simple white dress. He wore a black suit, not new but clean. We held hands and promised love. When we walked out of the church, the sky was blue and the sun was warm. For a time life felt perfect. We moved to a small house near the edge of Madrid. It was not big, but it was ours. He painted in one room. I worked on my designs in another. In the evening we sat together, ate simple meals and talked about our dreams, but soon shadows returned. Mark often used his phone in secret. He whispered into it late at night. When I asked, he said, "It is nothing, just an old friend," but his face looked worried. One afternoon I followed him outside. I saw him with a young woman. She touched his arm, she smiled at him. My heart felt cold. I turned away quickly. That night I could not sleep. I asked myself again and again, did I make a mistake? Did people warn me for a reason? Does he really love me, or was I blind? The next evening I asked him, who was she? He stayed quiet at first, then he said, "Sophia, I need to tell you the truth." When Mark said, "I need to tell you the truth," my body felt weak, my heart was afraid. But I waited. He sat down on the sofa, his hands shook, his eyes looked tired. "Her name is Alina," he began. "She was my girlfriend before I met you. We broke up, but she came back. She wants money. She said she will tell lies about us if I do not give her money. She said she will tell the world I married you only for your money." I sat still. His words cut deep. "And is that true?" I asked. My voice was quiet but sharp. He looked straight into my eyes. "No, Sophia. I love you. You know me. You know I's never asked for money. But Alina does not care. She only wants to hurt me, and now she wants to hurt us." I turned my head away. My thoughts were heavy. For years I built my life. I worked hard step by step. I gave everything for my career, and now with him I opened my heart again. But what if he was lying? What if the people were right? "Why did you not tell me before?" I asked. He put his head in his hands. "I was afraid. I did not want to lose you. I thought I could solve it myself. But I cannot. I need you to know the truth." For a moment I wanted to stand up and walk away, but then I looked at him again. His eyes had no lies. His voice was low but true. I saw fear but not greed. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. He whispered, "I do not want your money. I only want your trust. I will face Alina myself." The next week Alina came to our small house. I was there. She was young, beautiful and full of anger. She looked at me with cold eyes. "Do you really believe him?" she asked. "He was mine before he was yours. He only wants what you can give." I wanted to answer with anger, but I stayed calm. If he wanted money, he would already have it, but he chose to work. He chose to stay poor. He chose me, not my bank. Her face turned red. She shouted at Mark, "If you do not pay me, I will show pictures. I will tell stories. I will make your life shameful." Mark stood tall. "Do what you want," he said. "I will not give you money. I will not let you control us." His voice was strong, louder than I had ever heard. Alina looked at him shocked. She wanted power. But he did not bend. Finally she turned around and left. The sound of the door closing was sharp. The silence after was heavy. I sat down slowly. My body shook. He came close to me. "I am sorry, Sophia. I should have told you before." He touched my hand. I pulled it back at first, but then I looked at him. His face was full of pain but also truth. I felt my anger melt a little. That night I did not sleep. I thought about everything. The whispers, the people, my friends. Warning, Alina's words. Then I thought about Mark, his laugh. His art, his simple meals, his strong hands. I thought about the way he never asked for more than time. In the morning I sat by the window, the sun rose slowly. He came to me quiet. He said, if you cannot trust me, I will leave. I do not want you to live in fear. Because of me, I love you too much. For that, my eyes filled with tears. He was ready to walk away even though it broke him, and that was when I knew he loved me, not my clothes, not my car, not my work, me. I stood up, I went to him, I took his hands. Mark, I said, I believe you, but I am still afraid. He nodded. I know, but we will fight the fear together. From that day we did not speak of Alina again. Weeks passed, she never returned. The whispers from people never stopped. But I learned to ignore them. When people stared at us in the street, I held his hand tighter. When people spoke behind my back, I smiled more. Mark continued to paint. His art grew better and brighter. One day, a gallery owner came to see his work. He liked what he saw. He offered Mark a small exhibition in the city. It was not a big show, but it was real. On the night of the exhibition, the gallery was full of people. They walked slowly from one painting to another. They spoke softly about colors and faces. I stood in the corner watching. Mark stood by his work, talking to people with a calm smile. He looked proud, but not proud of himself only. Proud of the journey, proud of the chance. When he came to me, his face was shining. Sophia, they like my work, he said. They really like it. I hugged him. Even with people around us, I whispered, I told you, you are more than what they say. That night as we walked home, I looked at him and thought about our story. He was young, poor, and full of dreams. I was older, rich, and tired of being alone. We came from two different worlds, but together we built a new one. Months later we moved again, not far, but to a small village near the sea. The house was simple, with white walls and blue windows. From the balcony we could see the water. Every evening we sat outside. He painted while I worked on my new designs. Sometimes we drank wine, sometimes we ate bread and cheese. Life was quiet but full. People still whispered, they still judged. Some said it will not last. Others said she bought him with her money, but their words did not matter anymore. One evening, as the sun fell into the sea, he came to me with a soft smile. Sophia, he said, do you know what you gave me? I laughed a little. A roof, a ring, and food. He shook his head. No. You gave me belief. You believed in me when no one else did. You saw my art. You saw my dream, and you made me strong. I touched his face, and you gave me love. You gave me laughter. You gave me back my heart. We stayed there silent, looking at the sky. The sea moved slowly and the stars began to appear. I thought back to my life before him. Big shows, big houses, long nights. Alone, success with no smile. Now with him I had less money but more joy. I had fewer parties but more peace. I had whispers around me but truth. Beside me, people said love should follow rules. Love should be between the same age, the same class, the same world, but love does not listen to people. Love has its own rules. And sometimes love comes when you stop waiting. This is my story. I was 47 when I met Mark, a young painter with nothing but dreams. Together we faced judgment, lies and fear, but we also found truth, trust, and light. So I ask you, if you were in my place, what would you do? Would you choose fear, or would you choose